Our service team is based here in America.
America?
America.
From sea to shining sea.
Beautiful.
Home Goods. Go gifting. Go finding.
I'm doing okay.
Tomorrow on ET, our Shannon Doherty exclusive, the latest on her cancer fight.
Plus, only we're with the cast of the new Mean Girls movie and...
ET, welcome to Hawaii.
Happening now.
Given the history, what are you guys doing differently right now?
As KSAT Community supports the children's shelter, the new interim CEO clears the air about the past and explains the long list of programs they still have changing children's lives.
A deadly 2017 drive-by shooting that took the life of a 4-year-old boy. One of the men charged in this case heading to trial. We'll give you all the background on this case and what you can expect for Quentin Phillips' murder trial.
Dress in layers these days. Chilly mornings, comfortable afternoons. Our next cold front arrives this weekend. I'll have the updated timing of that cold front and its impact to temperatures in just a bit. News at 5 starts right now.
And first at 5 happening right now, it has been a crazy scene. 410 closed. It resembled a parking lot most of the day. A major traffic jam on Loop 410 at Rigsby Avenue finally clearing up. In fact, the highway only opened one lane of traffic just a little more than an hour ago.
Yeah, this is actually what it looked like this morning. All SAPD would tell us earlier is that it was an accident. Well, now we're told it was an 18-wheeler that flipped, trapping one person inside that vehicle. Thousands upon thousands of drivers on this busy highway had nowhere to go for most of the day. This is what it looked like 6 hours later, just before 4 o'clock. Drivers are being allowed back onto the loop, but only one lane at a time. San Antonio police say it was a single vehicle accident involving an 18-wheeler flatbed that rolled over. One person stuck in the truck was freed and taken to the hospital for some unspecified injuries.
Now, again, the driver of the 18-wheeler, we're not quite sure what caused that guy to roll his vehicle, but TransGuide did tell us the truck that flipped spilled sheetrock over the highway, and that's why the highway had to be closed for so long. Some good news for the drivers in that area. Again, Loop 410 at Rigsby is back open.
Hoping for a clean slate, the Children's Shelter of San Antonio, one of many organizations that ideally never shuts down, whether it's the holidays or in times of crisis like the pandemic. But you may remember the turmoil when one of its emergency shelters was forced to close by the court and the state.
But through it all, the foster care training and counseling kept on providing their crucial services there. Courtney Friedman now with how the shelter is opening a new chapter and clearing the air.
The Children's Shelter has served Bexar County kids and families for 122 years. In more recent years, the work has been twofold. One, running emergency shelters, and two, foster care placement and programming. Starting in 2020, there were a series of events, including allegations of abuse and neglect specifically involving the emergency shelters. It concluded in late 2021 with them ending their emergency shelter contract with the state. The current interim CEO, Larissa Moon, just assumed the role around 5 months ago, but she supported the organization for over 20 years.
I first came to the board in 2003.
To clear the air, we stepped back to those 2 tough years.
Can you just tell me what was happening?
It was a very complex time in both the child welfare system as well as with an unprecedented health crisis with COVID, and also complicated by an extreme capacity shortage for children. And really when we had some issues is when we were trying to take care of both small children and older children on the same campus or in the same facility, and it just doesn't work well.
Given the history, what are you guys doing differently right now?
That we still serve over 2,000 children annually who have been impacted by neglect and abuse, whether that's finding a home for them with a foster family or kinship family, whether it's helping them overcome the trauma through mental health services.
So while they no longer run the emergency shelters, their foster care programming never stopped and is now the main focus. They currently have 64 kids in foster homes and desperately need more foster families.
What advice would you give to those people who are considering fostering?
I would say just make the call. You know, we have folks that can tell you about it. We provide provide formula bottles, car seats, strollers, all of those kinds of things.
Money donated directly provides that support kids in foster families need. Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News.
Coming up tonight at 6, hear from a loving foster family turned adoptive family who say they couldn't have done it without the children's shelter resources. By the way, I want to let you know happening tomorrow, our KSAT community partners teaming up with the children's shelter for a phone bank. The goal is to help connect the shelter with interested foster care families or anyone who would like to help sponsor a child. Right now, the children's shelter says they have at least 60 foster children in need of placements. We'll have the number to call tomorrow. Again, this phone bank begins at noon.
3 teenagers shopping for a new car using a gun, not money, in a Walgreens parking lot this morning. They were arrested this morning. Police say that they're accused of carjacking a woman at this West Side Walgreens. The woman says that SAPD told SAPD that she was held at gunpoint on Commerce and General McMullen. Investigators say the suspects were in another stolen vehicle at the time that they took her car. The reports say that one of these stolen vehicles crashed on Wallace Street at Lolita Court, and that's where officers were nearby. Then the 3 teens in that vehicle tried to get away, but the officers were able to take all 3 into custody. They recovered one of the vehicles and some weapons. Police, though, are still looking for the other stolen vehicle.
More than 6 years. That's how long the family of 4-year-old DeIrvion Whitley has been waiting for justice in his murder. That justice might finally be coming. Whitley, the victim of a deadly drive-by shooting in 2017, and one of the co-defendants charged is finally heading to trial. Erica Hernandez gives us a look back at this case and tells us what we can expect from the trial in the coming days.
You could hear him in your ear as you just sitting there wondering before you could even say, get down. You just hear.
That was Centonisha Marshall back in 2017 describing the moments more than 60 shots were fired into her home. Her son, 4-year-old DeIrvion Whitley, the victim of that horrific crime. It would be almost 3 years before anybody was arrested with his murder. The men eventually arrested, Quentin Phillips, Terrell Chase, and John Chapman, facing not only murder charges but numerous other charges, including a federal case accusing them of taking part in gang violence on the east side. The first of the 3 men heading for trial for Whitley's murder, Quentin Phillips. On Friday, he rejected a 40-year plea deal, and today jury selection took place. Local criminal defense attorney Daniel De La Garza, who isn't involved in this case, gave us some insight and explains why the defendants were probably not charged with capital murder.
I think that it's just real hard to find out who exactly the trigger person was. And then that makes it tough for the prosecutors to prove. De La Garza says that the law of parties may come into play in this case as well. If one person did it, everybody participating is responsible. But, that's still really tough to prove in front of a jury. And
testimony is expected to last several days. If found guilty, Phillips faces up to life in prison. The 2 other co-defendants on this case are still awaiting trial, but Terrell Chase did have a trial earlier this year, but that was for a felons in possession charge. He was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison for that charge only. We will be following Phillips's trial closely. You can follow along too on KSAT.com or signing up for our Open Courts newsletter. Erica Hernandez, KSAT 12 News.
3 people able to escape their burning house in the middle of the night on the south side. Fire crews called out around 3:30 to the 2300 block of Twining near Loop 410, not too far from Palo Alto Road. When they got there, fire was pouring from the attic. Everyone was able to get out in time. Firefighters say the homeowner was able to pour some water on the fire before rushing out of the house. They say the home suffered about $14,000 worth of damage. There appears to be, though, no structural damage. Students at Delview Elementary School getting a big dose of Christmas cheer early on thanks to some Christmas elves from Reagan High School. In fact, every student at the elementary school was surprised with a wrapped gift. Reagan Student Council members delivered the hundreds of gifts on campus today. And as you can see, everyone was all smiles. One teacher says the act of kindness and generosity is a feel-good lesson that the kids will be able to remember and share with their families.
We're just so grateful and thankful, especially around the holiday season. What a beautiful thing for them to be able to experience and have and enjoy to take home.
Reagan High School students hosted a donation drive to raise money for all these gifts that were given to the elementary school kids today.
Santa's helpers aren't just working on completing Christmas lists at the North Pole. About 400 people at the San Antonio Amazon same-day delivery site working around the clock to bring holiday cheer to the Alamo City as well. Between 800 and 1,000 delivery drivers taking tens of thousands of packages to the door as the holidays draw closer. And the busiest days are still ahead.
It is already in full swing. We're in holiday mode, so our volumes are already higher. But during the holiday season, we expect to see about a 40% increase in our volumes.
Amanda Yarson says the items in the same-day delivery facility are always changing and will always be tailored to the needs of people in Metro San Antonio. Across America, lawmakers on Capitol Hill at odds over the Ukraine-Israel aid package, and the sticking point is the border. The White House issuing a letter yesterday saying if additional funding is not approved for Ukraine, it will, quote, kneecap Ukraine on the battlefield, end quote. The back and forth creating a stalemate that could have a ripple effect. The director of the Office of Management and Budget says if an agreement isn't reached soon, the U.S. could face critical national security risks. Republicans say they want some of the funds to address the U.S. immigration concerns. Democrats say they want their counterparts to meet them in the middle.
Security supplemental must include funding and policy reforms to address the crisis at the southern border.
Democrats want to be reasonable on immigration. We're willing to make concessions, but we will not keep going in circles if Republicans aren't interested in even meeting us halfway.
The Senate's scheduled to close for the year in 2 weeks. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell reportedly insisting that Republicans stay at the negotiating table.
With a single stroke, the Senate has finally approved more than 400 military promotions of senior military officers. That's according to the Associated Press. It comes after Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama ended his months-long blockade of these nominations. Democrats, along with Republicans, had been critical of his stance to hold up promotions, saying it punished military families and hindered U.S. military readiness. Tuberville's blockade to protest the Pentagon abortion policy.
Sunset alert this evening. Beautiful sunset taking shape because of the high, thin cirrus clouds we have streaming overhead. So get out there soon and snap your photos, upload them to KSAT Connect through the Weather Authority app. 42 this morning. We felt the chill, but it was in the 30s in outlying areas in the hill country. 73 was our high temperature this afternoon. Right now, we're 73 in Floresville, 72 in Leon Springs, Panna Maria 75. Most of our area in the low to mid 70s, but temperatures will fall quickly this evening. Just like yesterday, temperature falling off fast. I mean, by 8 o'clock, we'll be down to 58. So 71 now. At 8 o'clock, 58, 10 o'clock, 53. If you have outdoor plans, have the sweatshirt or the jacket ready to go. We'll talk about our next cold front, when it arrives, and what it means for our temperatures in just a bit.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Check out traffic right now. Let's go to I-10 and Medical. And I believe we're looking at the eastbound lanes here of I-10 as you get on to 410. You see a bit of a backup, nothing all that unusual for this time of the day, but certainly heavy traffic in both directions on I-10.
Over-the-counter hearing aids are on the market, but if you buy them at the drugstore, do you even know what you're looking for? Some music to your ears on the way. 12 on your side doing the legwork for you next.
This SA Salute holiday greeting is brought to you by Blue Skies of Texas.
We're the Garden Club, the Blue Skies of Texas, and we want to wish everyone a happy holidays, especially a sweet one with the honey from our beehive.
I'm Myra Arthur here in the newsroom, and here's what we're working on for the news at 6. Take a look.
As you probably know, life is much more expensive now than it was before the pandemic. In fact, the Bureau of Labor Statistics price calculator, it shows life is more than 19% more expensive now. As tough as that is for you and me, the consumer, it is a death sentence for some small businesses. In fact, today, we saw multiple restaurants announce that they're closing at the end of the year, citing rising costs. So we're going to be talking to some local small businesses, talking to a local economist, really evaluating the current state of our macroeconomics and what could come next. For the full story, go to KSAT's YouTube page and, of course, KSAT.com.
Plus, San Antonio football great Priest Holmes is trading being tackled for tackle boxes. We talk with Priest about a free fishing event he's hosting for hundreds of local kids. That and more today on the News at 6.
Thank you so much, Myra. Nearly 1 out of every 6 adults has some trouble hearing, and those numbers of developing hearing loss, it's growing fast. A lot of people who could really use a hearing aid don't have one.
But that should change now that it's easy to get a hearing aid over the counter. 12 on your side's Marilyn Moritz has some recommendations and what to know before you buy.
It's frustrating constantly asking, can you repeat that? An over-the-counter hearing aid may be the solution. It's easier and more affordable than ever.
If you have mild to moderate hearing loss, you don't necessarily need to go see a doctor or an audiologist to get one. You can actually just go to the store or go online and buy a pair.
So where do you start? First, know that there are 2 kinds, preset and self-fitting.
Preset OTCs are more affordable and they're generally simpler to set up and use. You can just stick them in your ear and go. But some are so simple that they offer little more than basic volume control.
Consumer Reports worked with an audiologist to test 10 OTC hearing aids. Things like volume, frequency range, distortion, battery drain, and directional amplification. Here's what they found. At $99, the Audion Hearing Atom was the most affordable preset model they tested. But the only thing you can customize is the volume control, and that requires a tiny screwdriver. CR also found it created noisy distortion in loud environments. For about $450 more, they found the Lucid Engage a lot more versatile. It offers 4 distinct audio configurations.
Self-fitting hearing aids are more expensive, but they're a really good choice if you want your hearing aid to be more tailored to your hearing loss, or if you want options like streaming music or calls.
The Lexi Lumens were among the most affordable self-fitting hearing aids they looked at. You need to set them up by taking a short hearing test. CR found very little distortion in quiet or louder environments. Another good option, they said, is the Sony CRE E10. It's pricier at $1,300. Marilyn Moritz, KSAT 12 News.
Live look outside with live cam, 70 degrees, and I think I heard Adam Caskey, right? We have a cold front coming our way?
We do. It's going to hit this weekend on Saturday, so we'll have some fluctuations later this week and on into the upcoming weekend. Let's talk about our morning tomorrow. Let's get you ready for it. Temperatures I showed you earlier this evening falling off quickly, and we'll settle again in the lower 40s around San Antonio and even some mid to upper 30s in the hill country. Downtown 43, Bernie 38, Timberwood Park 39, and New Braunfels 41. Notice our morning temperature trend in the days ahead. Thursday, still a bit of a chill in the air at 47, but by Friday, it's actually warm in the morning at sunrise at 60. Saturday, before the cold front arrives, we're at 65 degrees. That's well above average, but then watch what happens behind that cold front. Plan for Sunday and Monday mornings to be in the upper 30s in and around San Antonio, so you may have to take the precautions, especially with the potted plants in some areas. That'll be by Sunday morning. We'll keep you updated and fine-tune those numbers in the days ahead. I'll show you where the cold air is. It's not in Texas. We're mostly 60s and 70s. It's mainly the extreme northern portion of the U.S. and parts of the Great Lakes. Minneapolis 29, Bismarck 39, Chicago at 38, along with Cleveland. As we go through this week, a cold front's going to develop. The cold front hasn't even developed yet, and then it makes it here by about midday on Saturday, around the noon hour. And the cold air is going to lag behind it a little bit, but you will notice this front when it arrives, particularly in terms of wind. The wind is going to be howling, and then you see the temperatures fall off behind it. So as for the highs, still comfortable leading up to that front. 70 tomorrow and Thursday, 76 on Friday. Saturday, the transition day, still 68. That's above average by a few degrees. But then Sunday, we only make it up to 60, and we'll be in the mid-60s thereafter. So it's going to reset us and take us from above average in the afternoons back down to and even a slightly below average for a period of time Sunday into early next week. Dew points will be changing too. We've had these dry dewies in the 40s, already a little bit higher than just a few days ago. This is going to change leading up to the cold front. One thing you'll notice is higher humidity, particularly on Friday. You'll notice and feel the stickiness in the air, but that added moisture both Thursday and Friday mornings is going to lead to some fog. So plan for that Thursday, Friday morning commute, some foggy issues. 43 in the morning tomorrow. By noon, we're at 64, and then a high temperature of 70 degrees, right around 70, give or take a few degrees. And coming up at 6 o'clock, we'll talk more about the rain chance with that cold front right now at 10% and where most of the moisture is going to be.
All right, Adam, thank you.
All right, are the Houston Texans a playoff team, Mary?
They look like it right now. They're on the bubble, though, so not in, but right on the bubble. They did their job of defeating the Broncos on Sunday, and Jacksonville lost last night, so the playoffs are definitely a possibility for the young team. San Antonio had some time to regroup, and tomorrow the Spurs will match up against 15-4 Minnesota, but will injuries play a factor?
Football coverage brought to you by Davis Law Firm.
Last night, the Jacksonville Jaguars dropped to 8-4 overall with a loss in overtime to the Cincinnati Bengals. In the fourth quarter, Jacksonville quarterback Trevor Lawrence suffered a high ankle sprain that could sideline him for the first time in his career. The Jaguars lead the AFC South, and as it stands now, the Houston Texans and Indianapolis Colts are both a game behind first place. The Colts hold the head-to-head tiebreaker over Houston. But after the Texans' Week 13 win over Denver on Sunday, the team is in good position to fight its way into the playoffs with 5 games left in the season. Although the Texans did lose their stud rookie wideout, Tank Dell, to a season-ending injury in the process. So now other pass catchers will need to step up.
We got to keep going. We got to keep our foot on the gas. We got to keep going, man, because honestly, the sky's the limit for this team. I mean, we are a young group, super young team, but, man, I mean, we can go as far as, we want to go.
The Texans will play the Jets this week. Then they'll have a home and away against the Titans. Sandwiched in between that will be Cleveland. Then their season finale is against the Colts. Tomorrow night, the San Antonio Spurs tip off in Minneapolis against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who own the best record in the NBA. The T-Wolves haven't been at full strength as of late, but they'll likely get their star Anthony Edwards back in time to face the Spurs. Victor Wembanyama is also expected to return to the court after missing Friday's game against the Pelicans with hip tightness. Now, if you followed along from the beginning, you know Wembanyama has made major improvements in his game since the start of the season. The French rookie credits his evolving patience and understanding for the game as to why.
How I feel is whenever I do my thing and I take my time and get to my spot, it's always a basket, and I feel very comfortable in those stretches. But I gotta, I still rush, I still turn the ball over, and this is what we're working on, and it goes through a lot of talking, and realizing.
Both teams will be rested when they square off. We'll be right back.
Thanks so much for watching the News at 5.
World News up next. See you back here at 6.